Here I have Perseus running. It is not calibrated, and I have fed two signals into it, one at 1.2 MHz and the other at 2.8 MHz. And the signals you can see here and here, just at the edges of the spectrum. I can click on the frequency stepping, like this. You can see the signal coming in and on one side and disappear on the other. And here in the what do you call it, the baseband, you can see a center spur at 2.0 MHz because I have set the center frequency to 2.0. The signal generators here, 1.2 MHz and 2.8 MHz, they are locked to the same precision 10 MHz reference. He made a recording and now I play it back in Linrad. You can see 2.8 MHz here and 1.2 MHz here. If I click on the signal here, you can see it is very close to the proper frequency. I can make this graph a little bit bigger, but I cannot see the frequency error. It is too small. I have to change parameters to evaluate this recording. So I press X and P and take the default, but the bandwidth reduction, I go from 6 to 11. And then baseband storage time, this has to be much larger. Let's make it 100 seconds. At the very low sampling rate for the baseband that I have now defined, 100 seconds is not a big memory. Now when I click on the signal here, I have to set the averaging very small, because now transforms span a long time. And to step to the proper frequency, well, I press F10 to make the mouse more visible, and then I click here, and 2.8 is here, and I don't click every time. I hope you can see the mouse on 2.8 MHz, and I click on that, and we can see that the frequency is 2800 kilohertz, 0.0049. It is 4.9 hertz too high. And that is the frequency 2.8 megahertz. And then I check the other end here, near 1.2. And this frequency is 1, well, to make it more easy to see, like that. And I click on the signal to get it centered. And I can read 1.9 hertz above the correct. So I can set up these equations. I take the sum and the difference of the two equations, and then I find x and y. From this I find that the error on the center frequency is 1.7 parts per million, and that the error in the offset from the center is 1.9 ppm. Now the precision in my measurement isn't very high, so I would say that this Perseus unit has an error of 1.8 ppm. If I had calibrated my Perseus, the center frequency would probably have been correct, and then only the baseband sampling rate would have been wrong. This is something I don't know for sure, so I will now modify Linrad to accommodate for two more parameters when playing recorded files. One is to set the error on the center frequency, and the other is to set the error on the baseband sampling speed, the rate that Linrad receives from the hardware. It could be the same or it could be different, depending on how the hardware and recording program is organized. This is Linrad 04.07. I have added two parameters for correction of the calibration on recordings. So I now look at the recording I made with the perseus.exe. So that is 2. And I go for AM mode, which is F, and repeat the recording endlessly, yes, and yes. Invert frequency scale, no. Set center frequency correction in parts per billion. That is 1800, 1.8 ppm. Sampling rate correction in ppb, 1800. Now, if I had made a recording with the calibrated unit, I would have had to set the center frequency correction to 0, while I would have to set the sampling rate correction to 1800. I think. Input sampling speed changed. Yes, press any key. First mixer bandwidth reduction, I make it 11 to make it easy, reasonably easy to find small errors in the frequency. So I click on the low frequency here now, 1.2, and I click in the baseband to move it. And here is the signal, and I click on the signal to move it to the center, and I make averaging 1 and 1, because the transforms now span a long time. And now the frequency readout is correct. And the other signal at 2.8 megahertz, I click on it, or close to it. It's not so easy to click exactly. And then I click in the baseband waterfall to move and on the signal. And this also comes out correct. The center spur at 2.0 doesn't come at 2.0 exactly anymore. It comes 4 Hertz Well, I have to click once more. 4.5 Hertz below. The errors are small, but maybe on other systems the errors are a little bit larger, so it is perhaps significant to have these corrections available. Linrad 04.07 is not yet available as a standard package, but it is available on the repo right now.